Hey everyone, it's Max Armour of Compass here in San Francisco, and it is my pleasure, honor, and all the rest of these fancy words to be with Suzanne Tucker in her studio downtown off of Maiden Lane.
Thank you. It's delightful to be here.
It's amazing, right, that you've had this run that you've had, and you've been in this, you were just telling me, this space for 17 years.
We have, quite a long time.
So tell me a little bit about your company and sort of how you operate.
How we operate. Well, let's see. Tucker & Marks was started in 1986, and which is quite a while ago. And little did I know what I was getting into, right? But both Tim, my partner and husband, the other side of Tucker & Marks, he and I both came from Michael Taylor's office, and when Michael died in '86, there were some projects left, there were clients left hanging, and he called up and said, how about we start a company? And I had just had my daughter, and I said, my days of working 9 to 5 are over right now. I've got a baby. And he said, don't worry, you do all the decorating, I'll run the business, it'll be fine. Well, little did I know that 9 to 5 was correct. It was now going to be 24/7 when you have your own company.
Yes.
But that was the start, and that's how we started off. And this many years later, it's hard to believe. We do very custom work. We do certainly just straightforward decorating, but we also do big remodels, and we also do new builds, ground up. And we also work all over the country. I mean, from Hawaii to New York to Florida. So, it's not that it's all about big projects, but in order to service our clientele, very high-end clientele, it's all about the service. It's all about how you treat people. It's all about how you spend your money, and are you being treated well, and are you being given the best service? So,
how have you seen the business change, since the early days to now? I mean, maybe it hasn't changed that much, but I mean, your process as
changed.
You've evolved.
Yeah, it has changed. I mean, first off, everything changes. That's the nature of life. But it certainly has changed with the obvious things like the advent of the internet, And I think back on how, we used to get things done. When I was at Michael Taylor's office, we were doing a job in Saudi Arabia. I think back like, oh my God, how in the world did we, communicate in those days? And then I remember when these newfangled machines called facsimile machines came out, and I insisted that we get one for our office. And of course, Tim said, oh, no one's ever going to use those things. Well, I got so mad, I said, I'm buying it myself. So I bought our first fax machine, plugged it in, and now fax machines are a thing of the past.
Yeah, they are.
So the advent of the internet, certainly. People thought, oh, it's going to kill the interior design business. Everyone's going to be ordering all their furniture online and all their stuff. And I said, no. It's one thing if it's a $3,500 sofa, which will not last more than a few years. But it's another thing if it's a $35,000 sofa. So it hasn't changed from the standpoint of high-end service and what we do and the level of customization that we do. And it hasn't changed from it's a service industry, But certainly there's things that have made it easier. But the industry has changed certainly when I first came to San Francisco. So 1981, I was trying to get a job in design, and I had my handy-dandy degree, my Bachelor of Fine Arts from UCLA, and I'd worked in London for a decorator over there. And it was a hard place to get a job. There were no jobs available, and it was sort of the height of the gay world, and I was a young woman trying to get into this.
And they were so established, right?
Very
and it wasn't
established.
a very big city back then.
No.
I mean, it isn't a big city overall.
No.
But even back then, right, growing up, I remember that everybody knew each other. It was about this big. I tell people I grew up in a small fishing village on the west coast of the United States.
Oh, absolutely.
It was tiny back then.
Baghdad by the Bay. Thank you, cocaine. Yes. No, it's true. It was certainly very insular. All was very cosmopolitan. the days when people really dressed. It was fabulous.
Yeah.
But it was interesting sort of trying to break into design here. I was doing temp work, I was in my early 20s. And everywhere I went, I got a job offer, whether it was, the financial company that I was answering the phones for, or the computer company, or this or that. And I was like, no, I want to be in design.
Yeah.
Of course, the financial guys could not understand why I want to be in design. Why don't you want to make millions of dollars with us, conquering Wall Street? And I was like, boring, but anyway. And then, okay, do you still go by the adage, don't buy the best house on the block?
Well, we say buy the shittiest house in the best neighborhood.
Okay, I'm going to quote you.
That's a good way to go.
That's true, right. You buy the shittiest house and we will make it the best house on the block. There you go.
100%. Well, that has good bones and ready to go.
That's right.
Well, you can't change a location.
You can't change a location.
Always change a house.
Although back in the day, people moved houses.
They did. We've seen pictures of it,
right.
but that doesn't really happen anymore.
No, it doesn't.
Right?
It doesn't.
You can't change a location, but you can change a house.
Right. You can change a house, but bones and scale and proportion, which is my mantra, that's a hard thing to change. So, I've had clients walk in and say, you got to come see this house. It's just horrible. My husband wants to buy it. I think it's terrible. And I walk in and all I see are bones. And proportion. And I'm like, buy this house. This is a great house. And they're like, oh my God, but look at these colors and look at this carpet.
Yeah.
And I said, look past that. No. You're not going to have that.
It's scale.
It's scale, it's proportion.
Proportion is a great word.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Because then it just feels right. Is there something that is called San Francisco design? I mean, what?
Oh gosh.
Right? Like, is there?
Oh gosh. It's interesting. Years ago, Diane Sakes, the wonderful, prolific author of so many great design books, she published, I think it was her first book with John Vaughn, the photographer, and it was called San Francisco: A Certain Style.
And what year was this?
If you don't have it in your library, designers out there, you should have it in your library. It's out of print. It's going to be pricey, but it is a really good book because John Vaughn was a most fabulous photographer. When I think of that, I think San Francisco: A Certain Style.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it modern? Is it contemporary? Is it traditional? Is it stuffy? I'd say no, it's none of those things. I'd say it's sort of almost, take out the stuffy. It's a melding of these things.
Yeah.
We have beautiful classical architecture in this city.
We do.
And you can take those great bones and you can paint it all white, do whatever, and you can fill it with, contemporary furniture and with modern art and, throw in an 18th century chandelier. That room, that house, it's gonna sing. It's gonna be so good. Because it is that melding of things.
Yeah.
And my feeling about San Francisco style and design is that because we're on the Pacific Rim, there's a lot of things that work really well in our residences and here because we have this cultural aspect coming in.
Yeah.
We have the influence coming up from Mexico. We have the influence coming over from Asia. Those elements all work in our interiors.
Right.
And it's interesting how I will have colleagues on the East Coast say, it's interesting how much Asian pieces are used.
Right.
And I said, it works here. It works really well here. And we've got it at our doorstep.
Yeah.
And so I personally love mixing all those sort of genres. And to me, it creates more of that, well, eclectic's a far overused word, but it creates more of that individuality.
Right.
And who wants a cookie cutter house?
Yeah.
Especially for what houses cost now,
That aside, let's just move to the Decorator Showcase.
I was here 35 years ago, obviously a very young child, but I did this dining room 35 years ago for San Francisco Showcase. So when I heard that it was going to be this house, I thought, okay, that's the carrot dangling for me. And I said, no, I have to do this room again.
I love it.
Well, what I also love about it is that it's also what everyone thinks at a certain point. They're in their homes, they've been there for a while, or they're buying a new house, and everyone thinks, how can we make this fresh? How can we give this new life? How can we make it feel younger? How can we make it feel, so those are all those questions that every homeowner has at one point, either whether they're in the house or whether it's a new house for them. So I thought, you know what? Let's see how we do that.
And who better than you, because you did it. Now you've seen a few things. So now you can bring all that knowledge back into this space.
Yeah.
What a unique opportunity.
Well, for me, it's also the architecture. I mean, I'm an architecture freak in terms of good bones and right scale and proportions. And knowing this house, knowing this room, I already knew I had a great background. You know, it's all about bones.
Yeah.
You gotta get the bones right. And in this case, what we really wanted to do was honor the architecture. I actually had put in these moldings and mirrors 35 years ago.
You did.
So that was kind of a, God, I can't believe I did that. And look,
you gotta own it now.
And it still looks great.
Yeah.
You know, it still looks great. I mean, it's not a house that I would have come in and said, oh, you got to rip it all out. No, let's work with what you've got, and you've already got good bones. And what I love is that it reflects all this fabulous light, because we're west facing here. So, you know, daytime, this is a wonderful dining room.
Yep.
And nighttime, it's a great dining room. And dining rooms tend to be the least used rooms in people's houses.
Yep.
So my goal with this showcase is to show people how you can use a dining room casually, formally, morning, noon, and night. So I'm going to do a little something different, which is I'm going to reset the table every week for a different experience.
Oh, that's a great idea. Reset the table every week. I love that.
I want people to come in and say, oh, this could be a lunch, or it could be a breakfast, or it could be a fancy dinner, or it can be a casual family dinner.
Yeah.
And I want to get back to having people use their dining rooms.
Yes, I agree.
You know, have friends come over, make it casual, make it easy, make it a big birthday, make it a surprise.
Yeah.
Whatever it might be. I think that's what we need to get back to in life.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Well, the entertaining flow of this house is amazing.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
So with the catering kitchen next door and the living room over here, I mean, I see that, right? Why not?
Yeah,
it's
why
such
not?
a great space, and I love the way the sun streams into this house.
Yeah.
It does make it more approachable, shall we say?
I think it makes it a lot more approachable. And you know, it's interesting, when we did all the faux bois to begin with, which, you know, is you still have a little
And the faux bois
touch of it.
is?
Fake wood, wood graining.
Yeah.
So when we did all the wood graining 35 years ago, and then it got varnished, well, the varnishes 35 years ago had very yellowing qualities to it.
Right.
So the room, even though it still looked very handsome, had gone quite sort of a deep yellowy color.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, let's lighten it up. Let's make it more youthful. Let's make it more today. And we're also going to do something I think is going to be really fun and sexy. I like being sexy.
Yes.
Is I'm keeping the mirrors, but I'm putting laser cut grills on them.
Perhaps something even like
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A. So this is going.
So that is going to be on top of all of the panels of mirrors.
With this colors, with the red, gray? No.
No. That's just the CAD drawing.
Right.
And no, it's going to be wood. It's going to look like all the wood in the room. So then you get this sparkle behind the grill work, which would be great. And then we're going to dress it up and down. So, you know, some beautiful curtains and some lovely matchsticks, a very casual rug in the room.
Is that a sisal?
It's actually jute.
Jute.
So it's jute, and it's got this wonderful pattern to it.
I like that.
Going to bring some dressy elements in with some trim.
Yeah.
Every room needs a touch of Fortuny, so I'm going to have a touch of
course.
Fortuny.
Yes.
Of course, I had it 35 years ago.
Oh, you did?
It was the entire curtains, and it was the 80s. It was swags, and it was, you know, foo-foo.
Yeah.
But now we're going to be more tailored, more clean, and we're going to bring the outside in.
Yeah.
So with this beautiful color.
And this is curtains too?
This is going to be the curtains. And then we've got different elements in here where we've got some really wonderful crusty furniture. I've got a bronze table that I'm having fabricated, and it's going to have this beautiful aubergine stone that's going to go on top of it.
Okay.
So we've got all the elements, you know, to make it actually feel not like a stage set. I want it to feel very, very livable, very real, and not necessarily matchy-matchy. I want this to feel as though it's been collected over time, which is my philosophy on decorating anyway. You never want it to feel like the decorator just left the room. So I think we'll achieve that. And we're gonna have a beautiful leafy chandelier in the ceiling. And then, then I've got a few secret tricks. I'm gonna put a Fortuny pattern paper in between the beams of the ceiling. And then around the flat section of the molding that faces down, and the flat section of the molding that goes around. And then we're also taking the fireplace to look like it's an antique limestone. And
so that's underway right now.
It is. So this is a base coat that's on it right now. And it already has a beautiful marble slip around the fireplace. And so then there's going to be other great elements. So it'll start to look like this.
That's what it's going to look like.
That's what it's going to look like. A nice piece of limestone. What I think is just so great about it is the fact that today, houses are turning over a lot. There's a whole new generation coming in.
There is.
You know, baby boomers are downsizing. Baby boomers are moving into condos and apartments and hopefully not assisted living yet. But there's a turnover happening with the generations. And the whole chatter is about, well, how do I make this house work for us, our family? You know, we don't have a butler for the butler's pantry. We don't, entertain formally. We don't need a proper dining room. All those things. We live differently now. And back to how the industry changed, we have to change with how lifestyle is now. Lifestyle is different. So that was one of the things I thought about this story, is that to show people like, okay, that was then, this is now. How do you freshen a room? How do you bring it up to modern times and yet still have it feel appropriate for the house, appropriate for your lifestyle? So my goal was really to create a dining room that wouldn't just be reserved for, Christmas and Thanksgiving, right?
A walk-by room.
A walk-by room. Because dining rooms, as you well know, tend to be the least used rooms in a house. So how do you make it usable? You make it approachable. You make it a reason to go there because it has either wonderful light, or it's where you're going to be sitting down, having a meeting or playing a game, or you're going to be having breakfast, or you're going to have a lunch, or you're going to surprise birthday party. Casual or not, it doesn't really matter. It should be a room that gets used. So we're lightening it up.
I was about to say, what does that entail? So lightening it up.
We're lightening it up. I'm making certain aspects of it more casual.
Is that materials?
Yes, materials. Back in the 80s when I did it first, we did Fortuny curtains with, it was, the whole...
A lot of plumage.
Yes. And, those curtains are long gone, and that was then. So now it's a much more cleaner, tailored look, although still with sort of a certain classical look to it. But I wanted to bring that beautiful garden out there, that walkway between, what is that, Baker Street there and Baker Street there. And there's all these wonderful trees there. Let's bring that in.
Nature outside.
There's nature outside. Let's bring that in. Let's have that, beautiful soft green. And the chandelier is going to be a beautiful sort of gilded leaf chandelier. And it's going to have a more, I think, approachable feel to it. Okay, so here's how the world has changed. All those rules, those rules that everyone had to do, and those rules are gone.
That's gone.
It's much more fun to break rules, but that's always been me. I've always broke rules. But it's much more fun to break the rules and give things a surprise.
And mixing and matching that's part of breaking the rules. Because before you couldn't do it. No. Come on, now.
God forbid you match all your dishes together. That's the kiss
I'm going to put my napkin on the right side.
I don't know about that. No, don't do that.
All right.
But again, I also have to give credit to our fabulous craftsmen, artisans who are working on the room. My staff, Amanda Algren, my long time, she's principal in the company. She's been with me for 25 years. There's so many of my staff who pitch in on all of this because it's also great training and it's a great experience. You know, there's a time frame and you got to get it done and it has to have a perfect look and, well, perfect imperfection is, you know, what we're always after. So.
All right, so for now we say goodbye. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time.
And we'll see you soon.
Okay.
Goodbye, everybody.
Arrivederci.